proclamation. We're going to start. So.
I'm not even saying my numbers, right?
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Kalamazoo City Commission to order for Monday, March 14th, 2019. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Anderson. Here. Commissioner Cooney.
Present.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Here.
Commissioner Sykes.
Here.
Commissioner Urban.
Here.
Vice Mayor Knott. Mayor Hopewell.
Present. May we have a motion to excuse the Vice Mayor?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Anderson.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Cunningham. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. For our opening ceremony this evening, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and continue our meeting. You would stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a number, or actually two proclamations this evening, and I'll head to the dais. The first one, Commissioner Cunningham will handle, and the second one, Commissioner Cooney will be handling.
If we could have representatives from the Titans team meet the Honorable Mayor at the podium.
I want all the time.
Oh, well. This may be the first time I can't see the audience from my seat. So before I go into this proclamation, I would like to say, one, it's an honor to have you guys represent us, travel on our behalf as ambassadors for the city of Kalamazoo. And before I start, you know, I gotta hear it, man. I gotta hear it. We all we got.
We all we need.
Did you hear anything, man? We all we got.
We all we need.
All right. So this proclamation on behalf of the city of Kalamazoo, state of Michigan, United States, a proclamation representing in honor of the Kalamazoo Titans Semi-Pro Football 2019 National 2A AFNT Sunshine Bowl Championship, whereas the Kalamazoo Titans Semi-Pro Football team was established in 2017 with a mission statement of to take pride in instilling strong core values such as sportsmanship, work ethic, teamwork, and a sense of pride of the community through the love of football. And whereas on Saturday, January 20th, 2019, the Kalamazoo Titans won the 2019 National 2A AFNT Sunshine Bowl by defeating the Jacksonville Blackhawks 21-6 and finishing their winning season 13-1 and ranking number 12 on the NFE National Poll Rankings. And whereas members of the 2019 National 2A AFNT Sunshine Bowl Championships include 66 players, including staff and owner. Whereas the Kalamazoo Titans are committed to giving back to the communities where they live through their love of football in events such as the Back to School Bash at Lacrone Park, RAPS Children Mental Health Carnival, Benton Harbor Boys and Girls Club, and volunteering with local Rocket football programs, the Northside Falcons, Eastside Raiders, and the Kalamazoo Vikings. And whereas with the collective sportsmanship, work ethic, and teamwork that make this achievement possible, these athletes are deserving of our appreciation for their talent and commitment. We are proud to salute all of those from players to supporters who who were involved with the Kalamazoo Titans' success in 2018 through 2010 season. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 52nd Commission, I, Eric Cunningham, on behalf of our Honorable Mayor Bobby J. Hopewell, do hereby congratulate the members of the Kalamazoo Titans semi-pro football team as the 2019 National 2A AFNT Sunshine Championship champions. We all we got.
We all we need.
Oh, the microphone is mine. Whoa,
You got
I
the
wasn't
mic.
prepared. Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest. I'm lost for words right now because I wasn't prepared to say anything because actually our owner was supposed to be here with us tonight, but he actually ended up having to take a business deal. So what he works for he owns W4 Construction. So everything that he was planning to say, he just called me and said, "You take care of it." Okay, well I'm gonna do the best I can right now. Okay, so yes, I mean it was a great season. We, as you said, we had 66 people within our organization, but a lot of guys, a lot of our players, a lot of people on staff are actually working tonight or going to school or something like that, taking care of business. So they all called and said they're sorry that they couldn't be here tonight, but they wish they could. The ones that are here, they got here. I'm glad that they're here to celebrate this occasion with you all and us, you know. So, and as of right now, we're getting ready to get started for our season again. April 13th is our first home game, you know, so it doesn't stop. It's a year-round thing for us. And we keep working around, keep doing things, keep all, okay, here I go again. No. But we keep working hard at everything, and we're looking to be doing this. We want to do this again next year, you know, so, because we strive to be champions. We push to be champions. We work in the community and all that stuff. We love what we do with the kids. We love what we do with each other because we take care of one another. We hold each other accountable for things and all that. So thank you. Thank you, Kalamazoo, and we'll keep you proud of us. So thank you again. All right. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
We now have March for Meals Month. Representative from March for Meals. There we go.
Right over there.
All right. Hey, Chip, how are you?
Okay. Whereas on March the 22nd, 1972, President Richard Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 and established a national nutrition program for seniors 60 years and older. And whereas Meals on Wheels America established the March for Meals campaign in March 2002 to recognize the historic month, the importance of the Older Americans Act nutrition programs, both congregate and home delivered, and raise awareness about the escalating problem of senior hunger in America. And whereas the 2019 observance of March for Meals celebrates 17 years of providing an opportunity to support Meals on Wheels programs that deliver vital and critical services by donating, volunteering, and raising awareness about senior hunger and isolation. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs, both congregate and home delivered in Kalamazoo County, have served our communities admirably for more than 50 years, and whereas Volunteers for Meals on Wheels programs in Kalamazoo County are the backbone of the program, and they not only deliver nutritious meals to seniors and individuals with disabilities who are at significant risk of hunger and isolation, but also caring concern and attention to their welfare. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Kalamazoo, Michigan provide nutritious meals to seniors throughout Kalamazoo County that help them maintain their health and independence, thereby preventing unnecessary falls, hospitalization, and/or premature institutionalization. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Kalamazoo County provide a powerful socialization opportunity for millions of seniors to help combat loneliness and isolation. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Kalamazoo County deserve recognition for the contributions they have made and will continue to make to local communities, our state, and our nation. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 52nd City Commission and Bobby J. Hopewell, Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, we hereby declare March 2019 as March for Meals Month in Kalamazoo and encourage our community to recognize and support the work being done to combat senior hunger and isolation in America.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate being here. I just really want to recognize the last time that I was here in 2017, we were sitting with a waiting list of 250 seniors. Thanks to many community advocates, organizations that advocated for seniors, and our community voting yes to seniors, that wait list will be eliminated this year with our senior millage. So, you know, it's a great, wonderful thing that's been done. You know, and that millage, along with many agencies that serve seniors, you know, will be able to continue to take care of the seniors as the aging population continues to grow over the next 15 or 20 years. So thank you again for recognizing March for Meals Month. We hope to see you next year, and I hope to see some of you during our Champion Week this month, March 18th to the 22nd. Some of you may have received some invitations already. So, all right? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's my wife, yeah.
Commissioners, you have the agenda before you. Are there any changes? Hearing none, anyone in the audience here to speak on items under F, items on the consent agenda, an item will need to be moved to the regular agenda. If you have an item, please indicate at this time. Hearing none, Communications Manager Ritzman.
None, Your Honor.
Consent agenda, please.
We have 9 items on the agenda tonight. First is the approval of a proposal from Peerless Midwest Company, a pre-qualified vendor to perform well rehabilitation and associated maintenance in the amount of $140,700. Approval of the payment of the 2019 excess workers' compensation premium in the amount of $148,905. Next is the approval of the purchase of a new precast concrete building through the NJPA Cooperative Purchasing Agreement for Rockwell Park from CXT Concrete Buildings in the amount of $156,420. Next is the approval of the purchase of 7 public safety fleet vehicles from Gorno Ford through the My Deal program in the amount of $203,875. Next is the approval of the purchase of public safety portable and mobile radios from Rowe Communications through the My Deal Extended Purchasing Program in the amount of $799,998.76. Next is the adoption of a resolution granting a payment in lieu of taxes to Harrison Circle Limited Dividend Housing Association Limited Partnership for a proposed Harrison Circle development located at 617 Harrison Street and 525 East Ransom Street pursuant to Section 35-4 of the Kalamazoo City Code. Next is the approval of an agreement granting $350,000 to the Northside Association for community development to be used to purchase 7 properties in support of a mixed-use project. Next is the approval of a recommendation to the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners that Rebecca Kick be appointed as the city's representative on the Kalamazoo County Land Bank Authority Board. And finally, the approval of the minutes from the City Commission meetings on January 29, February 4, and February 18, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve the consent agenda and authorize the city manager to sign all documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Urban,
Support.
support by Commissioner Cooney. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. The regular agenda, Mr. Manager.
First is the adoption of a resolution affirming the adoption of the Oakwood Neighborhood Plan 2019 as a subplan to the City of Kalamazoo's comprehensive plan. And I would like to ask Katie Riley to come forward, our neighborhood activator, and I believe Karen Larson, president of Oakwood Neighborhood Association, is going to be joining her.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Katie Riley. I'm the neighborhood activator for the City of Kalamazoo, and we're here tonight to present the Oakwood Neighborhood Plan to you. And before I let Karen dive into the contents of the plan and what it means for the neighborhood, I just wanted to quickly review all the engagement that we did to make this plan. So first, Oakwood created a planning committee, and that planning committee was led by Karen. And with the planning committee's help, we were able to complete a survey. We did a series of focus groups on basically those chapter topics that you see in the plan, and that was with service providers and neighborhood stakeholders and representatives from the city as well as the neighborhood association. We also did a series of pop-up engagement throughout the summer, and this included a living wall that we did in the community building. We popped up at their annual reunion. We were at the bookstore for a reading. You name it, we were there. And then we also did a couple community open house meetings to kind of check in on the plan. And then when it was all put together, we celebrated at the trunk or treat, and then the neighborhood association board talked about the plan at 2 consecutive board meetings to kind of finalize it with everyone. And personally, I think this plan is really comprehensive, and most exciting is through this process, the neighborhood was able to build some new relationships that they're already using to move some goals forward. And so I'll invite Karen up to dive more into the plan. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Larson. I'm a board member. A little history. Oakwood Neighborhood Association began as a destination for Kalamazoo residents to find nature and relaxation. The electric cars ran every 10 minutes from downtown Kalamazoo to bring them out to the amusement park and to be on the parade grounds around Woods Lake. The city residents came to enjoy a day at the park on the lake, and they continue to do that to this day. In 1908, Oakwood Heights was divided into 438 lots, ranging from $50 to a high lot was $300. Great discounts were given for cash, and down payment of $2, and between $4 and $5 per month, you could own a piece of property that you could call your own. One of Kalamazoo's oldest association is the Oakwood Neighborhood Association. It continues to service a number of people in a ranging level of social economic levels. The majority of them are on the lower end and need additional services and help, and we are there for them. As Katie said, we did numerous things to be able to draw input and to reflect on what was needed. And what we came down to, some of the major things that we realized were very important to our association was that, first of all, we have a lack of green space, a lack of park space to be able to go to. So we are very, very grateful that we are in the Woods Lake area, but very thankful that the Asylum Lake Preserve is there as well. Connectability was another major issue that we talked about and discussed. A survey earlier that year by Kalamazoo College students was showing the differences between some of the lower social economic level neighborhoods in their sidewalks. And I'm afraid Oakwood won for lack of sidewalks or sidewalks in disrepair. That is something we would like to see remedied. We no longer have a metro route that goes through our community. And when you talk about the seniors or some of the people that are on assisted living, whether it's food stamps or just anything, they need an affordable transportation. The Metro bus is something that we are still going to see if we can find some way to make happen. Crosswalks to connect us to Winchell, to connect us to Asylum, to connect us even to our own park at Woods Lake are necessary. There is some discussion about the fact that the crosswalks to Woods Lake Elementary School need to be upgraded as well. We talked about all of those things in connectability, and with community, we really long for a better communication with the city themselves. And so we are going to continue to try to find ways to connect with the city to find other ways to address some of the issues that we have in our community. We have a food bank that services many of our own people, and that is continuing to grow, and we need to keep that on our front line, because that is the first help to be able to allow our community residents to know that we are there for them. Senior programming is another major thing that we designated within our plan. And one thing that I was amazed at with Imagine Kalamazoo is the seniors are somewhat lacking in that program. We just talk about teens and we talk about families, but the senior issue is a major one, and that is only going to be a major focus as we continue on. The teens, the youth, the young mothers, the Teen to Tot programs are other things that we want to focus on. One of the things that is our major dream is a new building where we can house more programming, house a larger food bank, and be able to make it more friendly for all of our residents. One of the things that we discovered with the help of Katie was that we needed to form coalitions to be able to try to make these things happen. If you look at our plan, it's made rather extensive. There are an awful lot of dreams that need to be created and materialized into something that's functional. It's through those coalitions that we will make that happen. The area businesses that we have are very supportive, and Cheryl, who is our director, has communication with them monthly and trying to find out what serves them best as well as how they can serve us. And the reciprocal combination of both is amazing to see. The process was extremely difficult. It was extremely time-consuming. When I talked to Winchell Neighborhood just to see how their process is going, I talked to Pete, and Pete lists the different committees he has and the number of people on each of the committees. And it basically came down to two people in our board, Cheryl and myself. When we presented it, our board was extremely welcoming and offered things, but we pulled something together which I think is pretty dramatic and pretty impressive. The most important thing is that doing this process reaffirmed our strength and dedication to our residents. And we are very grateful for the coalition that we are making with Woods Lake Association, Winchell Association, as well as Parkview Hills. To think of those other associations which have a firmer base, that do not need as much help with seniors, that don't have as much call for food banks, that don't have as much call for programming for youth, we can pull them in and hopefully make the dreams come true. So we are here to answer any questions that you have, but we are very proud of what we created, and our board stands behind it very proudly.
Thank you.
Any
Questions, Commissioners? Thank you very much. Congratulations on completing the plan.
Now, do we get the pop the bottle of champagne here now or later?
I have it down here.
Okay, we'll catch it later. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Anyone in the audience wanting to comment on the Oakwood Neighborhood Plan, please step forward. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within our city. Good evening.
I'm Nehemiah Scudder. I think you all know me. I live at 345 North Burdick, room number 303, which is usually called the Rickman House. What I'd like to say about the Oakwood area is that I think we have to make some serious efforts to clean up Oakland Lake so that people can swim in it, which they can't now, I understand, because it's too polluted. Our city has done the same thing to the river. The Kalamazoo River is a sinkhole for all kinds of garbage and everything else. We need to clean up our waterways. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to comment on the Oakwood Neighborhood Plan? Hearing no one, Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Cooney,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Urban. Discussion? Roll call, please. Oh, Commissioner Cooney?
Well, I just wanted to say congratulations to all her work. I would especially like to congratulate Cheryl, who's been working in the Oakwood neighborhood for 17 years and has done such a wonderful job.
Okay. Appreciate the excitement. We love Cheryl Lord, but we ask that you not clap. You can do that after. We'll celebrate Cheryl after with apparently the champagne that we have. Right. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. G2, Mr. Manager.
Approval of a proposed agreement for the City of Kalamazoo to acquire the Parchment Water System and a new wastewater service agreement, which will convert Parchment from a wholesale customer to a retail customer.
Anyone in the audience wanting to comment on this item, please step forward. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within our city. Seeing no one, Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve the agreement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Anderson,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Sykes. Discussion, Commissioner Anderson.
I just want to remind, I guess, myself and all of us, but all of us here, I mean, this is not something that the city had been contemplating, nor had Parchment in the not-too-distant past. And were it not for the good quality work that actually occurs every day in the city of Kalamazoo in the water delivery system, the good work of Director Baker, supported by staff here, that was able to jump in virtually within hours when it was determined that there was a challenge with the quality of water in Parchment, and address those issues right away, and then further enter into these what I consider to be extremely good faith, collaborative, we're all in this together kind of discussions related to expanding the reach a little bit of the water system we have here, and making sure that an additional few thousand customers, I'm guessing, are now part of this water system and coming to this point. I mean, it just speaks a lot to the good work that can happen, even when you haven't planned it in advance. And so I appreciate all participants here. This has not been a controversial thing, unlike many other things that we deal with. And it's good work, and it's the work that we all need to do for each other together. So I appreciate that to all involved.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes, I'd like to add that in the course of converting Parchment's water supply system from to the city's water system, the Parchment wells can be retired. Those are the ones that were the sources or the intake for the polluted water that Parchment was experiencing since last summer, first noticed last summer. So this is a permanent solution. It's a win-win for Kalamazoo and for the city of Parchment, and it's also an example of the kind of intergovernmental cooperation we need to see on a regular basis and growing in types and size throughout our metropolitan area.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other comments? I do want to make one quick comment, and that's I'm going to ask Director Baker to stand up, just stand up, and if the audience will take a look. The gentleman back there with that badge around his neck handles our Public Services Department. He is the leader of that department. That's our roads and our infrastructure, our sewers, and the water that comes out of your tap. And when we received the call from Parchment that they needed help, he led that team to make sure that we could help them. So, there's lots of things we can complain about or can be not happy about. There's lots of things that we're challenged with in this community. But we have some dynamic individuals that take care of us every single day. So as you leave this meeting, or if you see this guy on the street or his teams, I think we can say that we are in good hands and can give them a little thank you. I'm not asking for applause, but I did want to take a moment to recognize Director Baker and the fine job that your team does and give them our thanks, and I know Parchment thanks them as well. Yeah, you can, that's okay. Thank you, Dirk. All right, anything else? Okay. You're in discussion, right? Yeah. Roll call, please. Thanks, Scott.
Commissioner Sykes?
Yes.
Commissioner Urban? Yes. Mayor Hopewell?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. G3, Mr. Manager.
Review of the slate of two sector representatives for the Foundation for Excellence Board of Directors being recommended by the FFE Governance Facilitator, the Kalamazoo Community Foundation, and one reappointment. And I would just note that this is for information this evening, and Steve Brown, the Foundation for Excellence Coordinator, will give a brief presentation about what this action entails.
Good evening, Mr. Brown.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mayor Hopewell. Brief presentation this evening, just a few minutes to remind us of the process that goes into the Foundation for Excellence Board discovery and selection, and then to just prepare everyone for a vote that will be recommended by staff on March 18th. The process was the same this year as it was last year. We made use of the Kalamazoo Community Foundation as the governance facilitator. And that's a really important step because they convene the stakeholder groups, they do the vetting, they really get involved in the community. I can speak to the numbers this evening of what went on to make this work successful. There was an open application period between January 1st and January 31st of this year. 115 organizations in the community were contacted by email and through additional telephone and personal outreach to really build that base for people who could get the word out, could ask people to apply, could tell people that they should apply, to help them to apply in some cases. And this information was also circulated to existing board members and yourselves as commissioners to really leverage your networks to make sure that the word got out. We had 24 applicants this year for 2 seats. The 2 open seats that were faith-based and what we call the affinity organizations / nonprofits. So that was 7 per sector compared to 5 per sector last year. We consider that a really outstanding response. And so for the stakeholder, there's 10 stakeholders, and they're going to serve from June 1st of this year until May 31st of 2022. What this will do is this will give us a stakeholder slate, if these are accepted, that's 78% women and 58% minority or people of color. There are the city directors, which are 2 commissioners, the mayor and the city manager, but just among the stakeholders that go through this process. This really speaks to the attempt of ourselves and of the Community Foundation to respect diversity of talents, diversity of background, diversity within the community on the slate. The specifics, which are in the packet that's in the board packet this evening as well, are Rachel Lonberg. She is a Unitarian Universalist pastor. She's a transplant to Kalamazoo. She's been serving here for several years, and this was thought to be a really strong application. She was ranked highest among the sector leaders. She really impressed reviewers with her skill set and the insights that she brings as a recent transplant, and then brings diversity as a non-Christian faith-based sector representative. The commission, or the board member who's being recommended for reappointment is Sandra Calderon-Hueso, and she represents Edison as a neighborhood sector representative. She's really universally loved among the board members and respected, and the sector in that area of Edison also felt the same, so she's up for very enthusiastic reappointment. For the nonprofit sector, the candidate is Charlene Taylor, and she applied in 2017, so this is her second application, and her applications were both very highly ranked. She's a dedicated person for the North Side. She's worked since 2002 with the Elizabeth Upjohn Community Healing Center, and so brings that lens as a nonprofit leader. She's got a great mix of skills, and she's been really highly recommended for reappointment. So I'm available for questions. The Kalamazoo Community Foundation is also available for questions. They hoped to have a representative here this evening, but weren't able to, partially because of the coming storm, but also because of some sickness. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, what we'll be planning on doing is bringing a recommendation back on March 18th, and then we'd be able to move forward with a board vote for them to impanel the board members themselves at the annual meeting on April 22nd of this year.
Questions, commissioners?
Thank you very much.
And anyone in the audience wanting to comment on this item, please step forward. You'll have 4 minutes. 4 minutes. And give us your name and whether you live within our city. 4 minutes. Seeing no one, commissioners, there is no action on this item this evening. So this will be held until March 18th. Mr. Manager, you have a report this evening?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Mr. Attorney, you have a report this evening?
No, sir.
Mr. Clerk, do you have a report this evening?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we are now at citizens' comments. Any citizen wanting to comment on anything this evening, please step forward. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. We ask that if you're standing in line, please sign the sheet by the flag. And if you are speaking and not having signed in, please sign in after. And a reminder that if I hear profanity, I'm shutting down the mic. So just keep that in mind. Good evening, sir.
Jeff Messer, city resident. I would like to point out to the voters that there's an empty seat on the dais tonight. That is where Vice Mayor Aaron Knott normally sits. This is the Vice Mayor's 7th absence this term. Aaron Knott has missed 22% of the regularly scheduled City Commission business meetings since becoming Vice Mayor in November 2017. That is a 22% absence rate. That is like having a 5-day-a-week job and missing more than 1 day a week. I would like the City Commission to reconsider its policy of automatically excusing all commissioner absences. Only absences where an explanation has been given should be excused. Unfortunately, due to a city charter amendment passed in 2014, the voters won't have an opportunity to express themselves on Aaron's attendance record until November 2021. Until then, I hope Vice Mayor Aaron Knott will either commit to fulfilling her duties or resign her position. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Thank you. Name's Carl Wiseman. Was a homeless resident here in Kalamazoo, currently living in the city of Portage. My biggest thing that I have is I keep hearing about basically millions and millions of dollars going to fix our parks, yet we have a growing rate of homelessness and lack of affordable housing and good jobs here in Kalamazoo. Yet we have all this money from the Foundation for Excellence to help fix our parks and everything like that, and they said this is the first type of philanthropy of its kind here in the city of Kalamazoo. Well, let's think about the word philanthropy for a minute. Philanthropy means that you are donating funds without expecting anything in return for your good deeds. Yet what I'm hearing from this more, and the Foundation for Excellence, they're actually more expecting a return for their investment in the city of Kalamazoo. Therefore, that is not philanthropy, that is a business deal. And we need more transparency to where this funding is going and what it's doing to create a foundation for excellence. Because what good is an excellent foundation in Kalamazoo if you're leaving a lot of the population of Kalamazoo by the wayside and ignoring them? We got more inclement weather coming up. I just came in here from outside. I know there's people sleeping outside tonight because they cannot go to the mission for one reason or another. And we've got nothing to offer these people that are sleeping outside, nothing at all, other than death. That's what they're looking forward to this winter. And nothing has been changed, nothing has been done. I've heard nothing more from any of you guys when we created these work groups that, oh, we're going to work diligently to help fix this issue. Yet I've heard nothing from you, Jim Ritzma, or from the United Way or any of these work groups we created. I've not heard a single word. And you guys have my phone number, my email, and everything else. What happened to these work groups we're supposed to be doing and we were going to work so diligently with? Nothing has changed, and I've only seen the problem get worse and worse. People have died, people have lost their limbs, people are being turned away from the gospel mission, even though they've posted on their media and everything else through the media, oh, we turn no one away. Yet I've ran into 15 different individuals that have been denied services from the mission. So why, plus we were supposed to have an investigation onto what's going on there. None of those things that you guys promised to happen have happened. You've lied to basically everybody in the community about what you were going to do to try and address this problem. All you've done is grab your big broom and sweep it under the rug, just like you did in 2008, 2012, every year that this issue has been brought up. You guys just keep sweeping it under the rug and act like it doesn't exist. But eventually those people that are out on the streets, they're going to be sleeping in here in the city hall and going to other various places, and real crimes are going to be committed, and you're going to be like, we don't know what to do, because you're not doing what can be done.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hope this makes a change. I made a special trip. You're probably wondering why this little doll basket's here, huh? He's a sponsored child from Bonson and Conway. My purpose here, I want to be the first black...
Ma'am, we need your name and whether you live within the city.
Stewart. I live in Kalamazoo. I want to be the first black female African-American to be able to start a homeless work training program. I want to be able to give homeless people an opportunity, even with a felony, to work on my supervision in this project. It's taken me a while. I got to get the things I need. But see this little boy right here? He's wearing the last outfit when the city tore down the store. He's got his outfit on. basket, I restore dolls. These dolls I want to be donated for cancer research and domestic violence victims. I want to open a fund account. No matter how hard I work, this is what my project will be named. Somebody believes in me, homeless transition, housing, work, and training program. And in the book of Isaiah, it tells me that some of you will be a rebuilder and restore many ruins. I'm very excited about this project because I was part of that campaign. I'm shooting for a goal of $1 billion. I know I need to get my website started. I'm on a fixed income, but I take the quality time and the spirit of love to work on this very hard. I'm also a contractor. I promised Don Cooney I would bring it just to show you guys that I'm going to be a builder because it needs to continue. These people, these homeless people, need this opportunity to be self-sufficient. We talk about being a village. I want to be that start this village. I go down to the drop-in every day, and I still talk to the people that have believed in campaign. I've been working with Shannon. I want Shannon to be part of my board of directors when it gets to where it gets going. I want Denise to represent the Bronson and Camden. I want her to take charge of the fund. All I want to do is be the help and give people and get these dolls out for cancer research. I met a young man at the State Theater during Martin Luther King Week, and he's part of Forces in Bronson Central, and he wants to start a hospital for cancer research. I introduced myself. I said, I want to be part of that. I want my dolls to be part of that. Dolls show love. Dolls, man, he's got such a great smile. I wish dolls could talk. I fear cancer research because I might be done with cancer myself. I wanted to make a trip to go to Tennessee to talk to Marwa Thomas and let her know what I have in my heart to do for homeless people. And I want to donate. These doll baskets are very quality baskets because I take time on my own in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I find dolls and I bring them the way God wants me to bring them, and they look like this. These dolls are equipped with a Bible. They're supposed to have a seed. The word said that our children should be abundantly blessed, and this is what's going to stop homelessness, I feel. If I continue to keep working hard at it, I will reach my goal. So right now, I just want to ask all y'all if y'all can help me build a website. I know you can. You're a pastor, I know.
Ma'am, your time has expired. Thank you. Thank you. Next, please.
Scott, do they have copies of it?
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Dannison. I live at 604 South Rose Street in the Vine Neighborhood Historic District. I'm here to share a letter with all of you on behalf of a number of organizations in this area. To the members of the 52nd City Commission of Kalamazoo, we, the undersigned, are writing to strongly encourage you to move immediately to halt the development of local historic districts in Bronson Park and Nazareth. We feel that this designation is unnecessary and represents a burden that falls primarily upon the historic churches, nonprofit religion institutions, and other nonprofits. These entities serve the Kalamazoo community, offering spiritual and practical support to all, especially those in need, and they've served as faithful caretakers of Bronson Park and Nazareth since their inception. This new designation was developed in secret, without any input from the owners of these structures.
We received no advance notice that the Preservation Commission was planning on superseding our authority over our own properties. And despite the fact that First Congregational Church alerted the Preservation Commission to our concerns regarding 302 Academy several years ago, they neglected to return the same courtesy during the development of this new district. In 1831, prior to the founding of this city, our founder, Titus Bronson, designated Church Square for public use. This new district would strip this original intention and force our organizations to cede authority over our buildings and their usage to a secular government commission. This would cost us millions of dollars, and it would endanger our continued existence on Bronson Park and at the campus at Nazareth. With regard to the historic churches and nonprofit religious institutions, this would place a substantial burden on our religious exercise. This new designation would provide no financial or administrative benefit to our churches and nonprofits. Furthermore, the uncertainty created by the continued discussion of these plans severely hinders our ability to raise the necessary funds for future projects, and therefore is prolonging our expenses and harming our organizations. We respectfully request that you immediately introduce a motion instructing the Historic Preservation Commission to cease any further action regarding the proposed local historic districts at Bronson Park and Nazareth. Sincerely, Congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph, Sister Kathleen Brazda and Sister Patricia Warburton, Reverends Nathan Dannison and Sarah Schmidt-Lee, the pastors at First Congregational, the Executive Committee and Council of the First Congregational Church, Reverend David Nichols of the First Baptist Church of Kalamazoo, Father Randall Warren, the Rector at St. Luke's Episcopal Church, Belinda Tate, Executive Director of the Kalamazoo Institute of Arts, Dr. Bill Rose, Chair of the Children's Nature Playscape Board of Directors, and Nicholas Baxter, Building Manager at the Kalamazoo Nonprofit Advocacy Coalition. And we have CC'd attorneys J. Patrick Lennon and Sarah Nicholson on this letter. I want to say on a personal note, I live in a historic district, and I chose to purchase a home in a historic district intentionally. I'm a preservationist. I believe in preservation, and I have poured more money into the Ira Bixby house on 604 Vine or Rose Street than I'll ever get out of it again. But while this process is happening, while these conversations are ongoing, we cannot raise money. We can't raise money for our ministries. Our members, the 652 members of the First Congregational Church, are extremely anxious because we just invested a significant amount of money in our building. And our members, they're concerned that they may have invested in a building that we won't be able to live in because of this designation. There's been a lot of conversation about, well, what will happen when these churches close. We've been here longer than y'all. We're not going anywhere. Our churches are growing and thriving. This would put an end to that. So we ask that you please put a stop to this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name is Father Randall Warren. I live at 344 North Rose Street. I am the 28th rector of the 182-year-old congregation of St. Luke's Episcopal Church. Our chapel was built in the 1860s. Our church was built in the 1880s. We have been caring for our property and our buildings and for Kalamazoo all of those years. St. Luke's has been actively involved in the life of this city from malaria epidemics in the mid-19th century when St. Luke's buried people who had died and cared for widows and orphans, to parishioners who started the Kalamazoo Psychiatric Hospital, to women in St. Luke's in the 1880s who created a home for widows and unwed mothers, all the way to the founding of Hospice of Southwest Michigan by Father James Holt, Partners in Housing Transition, which provides currently housewares and furniture for people moving from homelessness to a home, the Kalamazoo Diaper Bank, the large number of parishioners who work for Loaves and Fishes, and the 20-plus mentors we provide to El Sol Elementary for the children of that school. We have been involved in caring for our community as well as our buildings. We want to continue to do that. If we are tied up in red tape and extra expense to care for our building, that will take away from monies that we have to continue to care for our community. Therefore, we oppose the creation of the historic district that Pastor Dennison just mentioned. Similarly, I am very, very concerned that at the public meeting that the Historic Commission held last week, it was announced that they had been discussing our property for 3 years without talking to us. 3 years. We are not, St. Luke's is not interested in being unhistoric about our buildings. There's no history of that. We would have been happy to engage with them in a conversation, but instead, for 3 years, they talked about St. Luke's without talking to any of us. I find that very insulting. It was also suggested that they had sought to invoke a city ordinance saying that we could not work on our property without their review while the creation process began and was carried out. And again, the idea of applying a city ordinance to St. Luke's happened without anyone talking to us. So the process is flawed. We have a long history of caring for our historic buildings and our community, and we're not sure what the need is for this historic district, and we oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Pat Lennon. I'm with the Honigman Law Firm. I represent the Congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph. It's been a while since I've been here. I'm sure many of you didn't expect to see me here with, at times, up to 40 nuns with me. For me, that's a real shot in my spirit that I don't normally have when I'm representing developers. But I'm here tonight not to talk about, and you'll be relieved to hear, I'm not really here to talk about a lot of legal points about all the things we think that are wrong with what the Kalamazoo Historic Preservation Commission has done and the path that it's on. I think what we're here tonight to say is to support the comments that were made by the two immediately preceding speakers. We have signed the letter and supported Mr. Dennison's letter and are part of that. But what we want to introduce you to is the importance of this conversation that's about to occur. On, I believe it was Tuesday of last week, a lot of us were very surprised to hear how far this process had gotten along. And so surprised that at least our group, the nuns that are here today, and others that came from Detroit and Chicago and other faraway places to support the opposition to this possible change in the regime that applies to their property is a deep passion. That is their home, it is their sanctity, and it is where their spirit comes from. And they are very troubled that it is being put at risk and that their opportunity to mold their property in a way that is compatible with their mission is being put at risk. So I think a lot of you are going to hear from our clients over the next several days and weeks. And I guess I'm asking you to listen to them because this is a critical time for their congregation and a critical time for their home. And with what they've done for this community over a century is something that should not be overlooked and should be given a lot of sensitive thought to. You know, there may come a time when when this isn't a conversation and a dialogue. We all know that. I think you've got the letter. That day may come. What we're hoping, though, is that you, the City Commission, will look at this and say, now isn't the right time. And particularly with respect to Nazareth, because if you consider the difference between their historic district and the Bronson one, they're the only landowner. I mean, it feels very directed with respect to that one, with respect to them, and they've felt that, and that's something that they're sensitive to, and I think you'll hear from them about that. And it feels reactionary in the sense that they've been talking about making some changes there to adapt their facilities to what they've become. And after serving this area for so long, they weren't asking for the community to come help them or subsidize any changes, but they certainly were surprised to hear that the community might impose rules on them that could prevent them from doing that. And I don't think that's anyone's intention up here, and we hope that doesn't come to be. So as we look ahead and move forward, we hope you'll listen to them with an open ear and hopefully remove the Nazareth property from the historic district classification possibility. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Maddie Jordan Woods. I guess I don't really need a mic, huh?
You don't have to hold it. Yep.
I work at 612 North Park, and I live and love 902 West Patterson. And I just wanted to thank this commission for supporting the efforts that we are doing. Our neighborhood plan was very specific that we wanted to increase the number of resident-owned businesses and to increase the number of different kinds of housing, because we've heard that there are different people, homeless people, but single people who are working and can't find housing. And one of the projects that will go on these 7 properties, the young lady is here. I'm so proud of her. She is a resident that is trying to make a difference, and it's one of the initiatives that's there. And we believe that this is dollars that's coming from the Excellence Fund. If it's not, but if it is, we want to be thankful and to acknowledge that some work is coming out of that, and it is as a result of residents saying this is a need. And so I will encourage anyone that if they have some ideas, that they bring it forth and bring some coalitions together to do some different things. And that is what our board is doing with Ms. Hooker, is that, I mean, I'll let her tell that part, but I just wanted to thank you for believing in us, because for us to get Fred to say he would agree to sell it was a miracle in itself. But we're thankful that you all are helping us to create housing, employment, and training for not only our residents, but other residents that's in this city who will want to participate in. I will let you know later if it works out with KVCC that we are meeting with to do these trainings that will provide jobs.
Hello, my name is Gwendolyn Hooker. Hello, Mayor and City Commissioners. I'm going to be very brief. I'm pretty sure that most everyone up there knows about the Tiny Houses of Hope pilot project, and we know that we are very determined to build tiny houses for people with criminal background and or substance abuse history. I am very grateful for you approving the 7 properties in order to make that a possibility and a reality for many, many folks who are struggling with housing security. So I'm going to be brief. I'm sure most people have all of the information about the project, and I am going to be reaching out to anyone who potentially may not know. I will be reaching out to you folks personally. But thank you so very much for this opportunity, and we are very, very grateful. We will not disappoint. Thank you so much.
And we would be remiss if we did not thank city staff, because they have to, how do we say it, be able to get along with us even when it looks like we're unget-alongable. And so I just want to say thank you to them. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm the Director of Finance at the Kalamazoo Institute of Arts, and I'm here in support of the letter and what Mr. Danielson had to say about our property at the First Church of Christ Scientists at 224 South Park Street. I just will be very brief and say that we wish to be excluded from the list of structures in the proposed local historic district. When this issue came up in 1976 and in 1982, the congregation of the Church of Christ Scientists objected to the building's inclusion in a potential historic district and lodged 2 official objections to the nomination. And today, our position remains the same, and we wish to be excluded from that proposed local historic district, and we're just disappointed to hear about the long 3 years of research going on without any knowledge. So we wanted to let you know, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
My name is Belden Smith. I live out in Alamo Township, but I'm a member of First Congregational Church, and I would like to submit this statement and come here to oppose the intended historic district that's about to descend on the Bronson Park area. I'm not sure how well I can fit my comments into 4 minutes, but I'll start and see how far I get. The best support for opposition to the establishment of the proposed historic district in question may well be the Historic Preservation Commission's report itself. Over pages 3 through 24, and really the entirety of their discussion, the report describes in very interesting narrative the dynamic evolution of this vital area of the city. There are stories of change and adaptation, of real estate in the hands of creative institutions with the intention of promoting ongoing improvement of life in the city of Kalamazoo. Institutions both secular and religious with, as always, the same ultimate intent, that of mitigation of conflict in the city and the world. Yes, this is an area of the city and the state with a lot of fascinating history, but no, this is not a museum. We are not wax figures. Are we at a point just now when the city should freeze the scenery in the center stage in the heart of the city as we continue to write the history of this progressive community? Or at what better point in the last 100 years might the city have chosen to encase these properties in the storage closet of historical artifacts and thereby forego future construction, demolition, alteration, reimagining, improving, and experimenting? This misconceived proposal could have been offered at any time in the past 100 years, and in hindsight, it surely would have been just that, a misconceived, preemptive, and a mistake. This is not going to work out. But we are not finished. The city is not in retirement. Don't place a period where there is a comma. These buildings are not like the former home of a noteworthy playwright or some side street, on some side street, a museum piece to be appreciated for what it was in the past, for what it represents or calls to mind of an era gone by. There is no adult supervision required here. The important stakeholders here are responsible adults who have supervised the maintenance and documentation of their institutionally owned assets with diligence and respect for past history. If you get the statement, I'm just reading the stuff in the black print. Is it really the case that the Commissioner's primary rationale, quote, primary rationale in taking this proposal forward is to prevent the raising of an ugly, useless structure of no sentimental or cultural value, even to the congregation that was associated with the building for the longest? There was no architectural genius behind the design of the building at 302 Academy, as Criteria C would call for. The short paragraph on page 33 of the report finds little to recommend for preservation. It's a barn with simple curved pews and no ornamentation. As the report states, the sanctuary has been undermined by the excavation of a Michigan basement, which has destabilized the structural integrity of the oversized five-sided.
Sir, your time has expired. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Nehemiah Scudder, as I mentioned earlier. I live at 345 North Burdick Street, room number 303 in that building. The building is usually known by its name, the Rickman House, which I'm proud to live at. With furnished sanctuary for people that might not have much housing otherwise. What I'd like to do now is read into the record 3 points I call 19 words, which are my mission statement. 1, this world is messed up. 2, we will change that. 3, we will do whatever necessary to get what it takes. Signed, and I signed it, and I've gotten out of the signature so far. Let me suggest some of the things on a major scale that could be done to improve things around here. First, we should sell everything in returnable containers, not just drinking pop, but everything, and then pay a decent rate for the returnables when they come back. Second, we need to clean up our waterways, and I spoke about that before. The Kalamazoo River is a sinkhole of garbage, and Oakwood Lake is too polluted to swim in now. And probably other sources of water around the county are likewise. Why cannot we restore our county to cleanliness and get rid of all the garbage floating in the river? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good
Hi,
evening.
everybody. I'm Angel Johnston, a resident of the Vine neighborhood. I'm not really here to complain tonight, so I'll open with a thank you. Laura Lamb reached out to me after the last meeting, and I thought that was really nice. I think that came from you, Jim Ritzma. Thank you. It was nice to have somebody actually ask what the heck was going on. I got an email back from her. She seems absolutely lovely. So thank you. It really feels good to have somebody say, hey, really, what do you have to tell us? And then I got here tonight really just to say that, and then I realized, oh goodness, the whole Historic District Commission stuff is getting started, and I just want to let you guys know in advance, that's what I cut my teeth on back in Three Rivers. So if you guys move forward with this, you know, you're forewarned, you will have homework from me every single week. There were times our commissioners in Three Rivers came in and they had books from ancient Egypt marked in front of all of their spots so that they could follow with me through my 4 minutes then. Please don't do it. I watched it rip a town to pieces. These guys are going to take really good care of that property. I mean, all these pastors behind me, all the ones who maybe aren't here tonight, don't worry about it. Please let it go. It's just not a battle that needs to be fought at this point. And then lastly, guys, this one's a little bit concerning. I actually had to bust out my phone calculator here. So one of the first things I was taught when I got into politics was to watch the consent agenda. There's one commissioner up here who I usually watch to make sure that the consent agenda was good. And that person didn't bring anything up, but what I did find, and I'm looking back for this number, was that in the consent agenda, you guys approved the spending of $1,643,000. That's a lot of money. Could we please have more than a sentence and agreement from you guys next time you're going to spend that much money? I mean, one thing specifically alone, the mobile radios, $799,000, that's a lot of money. I mean, we could have at least heard a little bit about something about it, maybe just a little blurb. I mean, there's literally a sentence in each one. So I hope that the next time you guys spend $1.6 million, we get more than a sentence each. And again, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Toby Hannah Davies, and I do live in the city, and I'm co-chair of the Isaac Housing Task Force. So I want to thank you that you put on your consent agenda, assuming it will get a yes vote from everyone, a payment in lieu of taxes. You do this over and over again, and the one that you put on the consent agenda tonight, so it got no discussion, is very exciting project at Harrison Circle, and the Isaac Housing Task Force is delighted about that project. And there were two other good consent agenda items that are also great for affordable housing, and one is the Tiny Houses of Hope property, which I'm personally very excited about, and another is appointing or approving Rebecca Kick as the city's representative to the Land Bank Authority. I think that is a great step for affordable housing as well. And we want to let you know that Isaac is very pleased about Reverend Rachel Wanberg as an Isaac congregation clergy leader being looked at for the Foundation for Excellence position for faith-based representative. Thank you for all of those steps that you're taking. I do want to say I'm a member of one of the churches in the historic district that was concerning the clergy who spoke tonight, and that there are quite a lot of other Isaac congregations in the district, the historic district that you're talking about. So I really hope your process is looked at very carefully for how you talk with all those congregations about what historic district involves, and all of the concerns they expressed tonight are very important. Thank you for your affordable housing work.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission this evening? Seeing no one, your commissioners' comments. Commissioner Sykes?
Thank you, Mayor Hopewell. Just a couple of things I want to touch on. I do, want to address the issue with the historic district designation, and just make it clear that I hear you all, and I have had a chance to have some conversations and some meetings around this. Just a couple of things I want to lift up to my colleagues. What I'm hearing folks say is that this move would endanger some of our oldest faith-based organizations. And, Commissioner Cooney, I repeat, this is something you said in my first year here, and I continue to repeat it over and over, but, I trust people to be experts in their own lives. And as such, trust these congregations and their leadership to know what's in their best interest. And so I do wonder whether it makes sense to put these organizations at risk and their buildings at risk in order to save, just a couple of buildings that are at this point blighted and unlivable. And I'm not sure that I understand fully, and I want to be really transparent here, I'm not sure that I understand fully why that would be a good idea. I want to highlight this sentence in the letter we received that says, quote, "This new district would strip this original intention," speaking of Titus Bronson's designation that Church Square be maintained for public use. It says, quote, "This new district would strip this original intention and force our organizations to cede authority over our buildings and their usage to a secular government commission." I am deeply concerned, and I'm hoping that maybe staff can speak to that for me a little bit, about whether or not it would strip that original intention, and if so, why it is that we feel safe in moving forward with that plan. I'll leave that at that. I know there's a lot more conversation to be had about this issue and figuring out what's going to happen next. But at this point, it's not something that I could support in any way, shape, or form, given the fact that all of these organizations involved are opposed. And then I want to share something. I don't typically do this, but I received a letter. I'm sure we all received this letter, and it touches a little bit on the issue of homelessness within our community, and it seems it's really important to me that I just offer some thoughts on this. As we know, and as the gentleman stated tonight, that homelessness is on the rise in our community. I received a letter from the Marlboro Condominium Association talking about the issue with homelessness downtown, and I want to read a portion of that. It says, quote, "As we explained last summer, spring and early summer were the times we saw a great insurgence of urban campers from outside our community. These were large, sometimes unruly groups who partied, were loud, and verbally harassed passerby, including our residents. These outside groups were largely gone by the time of the public upheaval last summer regarding the local homeless population, which further misdirected attention away from our central point, which was not to be critical or unsupportive of our local homeless population. Our point was to urge prudence about the delivery of park amenities and other services, consider limiting Wi-Fi and charging stations to daylight hours, and to encourage the enforcement of existing ordinances governing park hours, overnight sleeping, cooking, alcohol, and drug use." It goes on to say, "While there is still time before spring, we hope the City of Kalamazoo will continue to work productively towards supportive measures and protections for our local homeless populations. while finding a way to discourage urban camping in Bronson Park and the city center. We want to make it known that our park is open for civil and well-behaved citizens, and that all who play by the rules are welcomed and encouraged. That said, we want the message to be clear that those who want to come here without overnight lodging, to camp or sleep in our parks, and engage in unlawful and unruly behavior will no longer find our parks amenable to that plan. I share this and read this because this is a good illustration of a lot of the communication that we have received over the past year in regards to this issue, and so it feels to me as if it needs more of a public response than I typically give these letters that I receive in my inbox. I think we need to be careful. I want to, I want to say in the last year, in my time working within the homeless population and having built strong friendships and strong connections to folks, I have yet to witness these insurgent groups of people coming from other areas to camp, to participate in urban camping. The reason that I lift that up is because I think we need to be careful about perpetuating beliefs that may actually not be based in fact. Sometimes if you see new people in the homeless community, it's because they're newly homeless. And because we know those rates are growing, it's a bit presumptuous to assume that if you don't recognize those folks, they're not from this community. I also want us to be careful of, as I'm married to a gentleman of Romani descent, and it can be dangerous to have this idea of these unruly travelers who come to our communities to cause trouble and cause problems. And frankly, this belief has perpetuated centuries of oppression and abuse of people who are just looking to survive. So I want to lift those things up. I want to request and just say that I hope that in the future, if we start to see growing populations of homeless people, or we start to be confronted with people camping in our city center as a way to be seen, again, that I hope our response will be to meet folks and talk to them where they are and build relationship and see how we can work together to improve each other's situation together. I can tell you from experience, it's pretty amazing, and you might be really pleasantly surprised at the amazing people that you meet. Just because you push people out of your parks does not mean that they disappear. You just get to stop looking at the issue. And I can tell you those folks are still out there in the cold because we met with all of them and served many of them at our historic churches downtown during the polar vortex. So just something to keep in mind as we think about the best way to move forward with our neighbors. And that's all I've got for tonight. Thanks so much, folks.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start off with just a comment about the agenda and the consent agenda, just to talk about that a little bit since that was brought up. So what we see in front of us that sits out here for people to pick up as they come in is a highly truncated version of our actual board packet, a few pages long, which in essence really has no more than kind of extended titles for the actions that we're taking. So I want to remind people that there is a full and complete board packet which is available to anyone in the community. I suppose you could even ask for a printed version if you so desired, but it's certainly available online. And every one of these extended titles has an opportunity when you go into the board packet to click on it and get a highly detailed explanation of exactly what is going on. So this is just a very short version of the board packet, which is often 150 pages or longer when it's put out. So rather than putting a stack of 150 page documents out here, this is what happens. This is the work that is done this evening. But that is available anytime during this meeting, of course, if you are able to pull that up. But that's online in advance. So it's the draft goes out the Wednesday in advance of the meeting, giving you a chance to see, in its fuller scope, what the actions are that are being taken. In addition, this is a business meeting, and oftentimes we have many, many items that are on our agenda. So if we are to take every item and address it individually with an extensive discussion on what we consider to be the important items, it's very easy for this meeting to extend hours and hours and hours. So I think what occurs is that some of these items, which maybe are considered to be more perfunctory in nature, are put on what's called the consent agenda. Now, anybody in the audience or here on the commission can ask at the beginning of the meeting for any item on the consent agenda be pulled off the consent agenda and moved to the regular agenda, which obviously then offers anybody up here the opportunity or anybody in the audience to comment on that particular agenda item. So I want to make sure that people are clear that just because it's a consent agenda item does not mean that there is not an opportunity to talk about it the evening that's on the agenda to the extent that you so desire, as many people as want to take advantage of their 4 minutes to talk about it. So there is an opportunity there as well. Even if you are surprised, you haven't had a chance to see the full packet, you can, the evening of, ask any particular question you would like about an item that's on the consent agenda. That's kind of a matter of practice to help us leave more time before people are too tired to make their citizen comments at the end, before it's midnight, that kind of thing. So there are very particular, the agenda is intended to be transparent and as accessible as possible. I appreciate concern, but I just want to make sure everybody knew that. As it relates to the predominant issue that we've had discussion about this evening related to the recommendation that has come from our Historic Preservation Commission, the HPC here in Kalamazoo, I'd like to say a couple things. I was able to come to the meeting that was held here in these chambers, I guess hosted, so to speak, by our city staff person, Sharon Ferraro, who is the person who's charged with managing the historic preservation opportunities that happen here in Kalamazoo. And the room was much, much fuller for that meeting than it was tonight. So I was happy that I was able to come to that meeting. It was obviously extremely clear what the general opinion was of people who are involved in the ownership of really the majority, if not all, of the properties involved. I think I can think of one property that I haven't heard concerns expressed about yet. And in addition to that, I have to say, and perhaps this is a little bit of an embarrassing admission, but this is an issue that is reasonably new to me as well. And I'm thinking that probably other members of the commission feel the same way. We have not been discussing this for 3 years. This is work that comes out of this appointed board, the HPC, not work that comes out of here. So I have to say, when I reasonably recently heard about this, I was surprised also. So maybe I'm not doing my homework, but if I'm not, I am admitting that here in full view. So it was edifying for me to come myself and listen to that presentation last Tuesday. I think that was the fullest, that was really the extent of the presentation I've experienced on this particular topic. So that all said, I am hoping that at this point, particularly related to these concerns about the possibility of a moratorium or some sort of immediate action taken, which this body would take, not the historic, it would be up to this body to take those, to immediately put a moratorium in place, that sort of thing, that I would like to make clear from my perspective that city administration now move with this recommendation that has come from this advisory body to us, that we move with great speed so we are not even creating as much as possible even short-term duress for the individuals involved in this. It would be one thing to say, okay, we'll think about it. In the meantime, everybody's got to hold off for a while here with their ongoing plans while the gears slowly grind. I'm hoping that we will move quickly. I've heard some things now that there's already meetings set up, so that this is the uncertainty factor here is extremely short in duration. I think that's extremely important, and I don't think we need any particular report on that tonight, but I agree that we need to understand, okay, what's the steps, what's the process here, and how are we moving through addressing these concerns very quickly. Appreciate the input.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cooney?
Thank you. My two colleagues have spoken very eloquently about the two issues that I wanted to speak about. First of all, I want to thank people for coming down tonight. It is so important to hear from the citizens and what you people think, because you're the ones that are directly affected by all this. And I just want to say, when we talk about the churches and we talk about the sisters and what you have done for this community, I just don't want to put any kind of burden on you for the plans that you now have laid out for your own properties. So I totally agree with my colleague, Commissioner Anderson, that we ought to settle this very, very quickly and let you get back to the wonderful things that you want to do for this community. Secondly, I want to speak a little bit to the question of homelessness and housing that Commissioner Sykes has been such a wonderful advocate for. I think we had two things happen tonight. We had people come up and say, and in our agenda, that there are some very important things happening with this, very important things. But we also reminded that there needs to be a sense of urgency because people are still out there hurting very badly. So we have to keep at this. We don't have a strong plan right now for an emergency or for the situation of the people that are out there right now in weatherizing their tents for the winter. And we need to do that. We need to come up with a plan. I know how difficult it is. And we need to come up with a longer-term plan about what we're going to do about housing and homelessness in this community. So I appreciate all the good things that are happening and the efforts, the strong efforts that are being made. But we have to recognize the urgency of getting more done for these people.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Urban.
Thank you, Mayor Hopewell. Well, I have several items I'd like to go through this evening. One that hasn't been mentioned, just in response to one of the citizens who spoke about the casual way so much money was approved on the consent agenda. I think everything that David said with regard to what's behind what appears on the consent agenda is true. Everything he said is accurate, but I want to just add that still, even after you've read the packet on some of these consent agendas items and see more detail, it doesn't really very often go into why the whole issue is even there. I mean, there's a lot of assumptions already baked in to what's in the packet, and it looks pretty much like it's a foregone conclusion. Well, for those of us who are in the know, so to speak, who do this daily, and our professional staff, it's pretty routine for them. But the people who are hearing about it for the first time, who do not make their careers out of working for the city, can somewhat be taken aback by the size of some of these figures. Frankly, at one time earlier in my career as the city commissioner, I used to take some items off the consent agenda that needed some explaining, just so the public could understand it. Not so much that I was going to vote against it, or that I actually even needed a whole lot more detail myself. But I wanted to have I want the public to be able to hear it, so to know a little bit more about what's behind some of these large requests. For example, with this big payment to Row Communications, when I read that in the packet, I said, well, there we go again. We are kind of caught by our short hair when we deal with radio equipment. There's very few suppliers. It's very, very specialized business, and the Motorola company and their allies, with very few of them, really can dictate the prices. And so if we're going to have radios, we have to deal with this kind of expense. Now, it would be helpful to have somebody from the staff perhaps explain a little bit more to the public about that. But it's something that we've kind of gotten used to. You haven't gotten used to. You deserve to know more about it. You need to know more about it. So that's all I want to say on that. Now, turning to the issue of the historic districts, we've heard a good deal this evening in opposition to historic district designations. I have not heard from the Historic District Commission about why it's so important for these areas to be named historic districts. Surely, the city would not have created a Historic District Commission if it didn't have a good civic purpose behind it. There's something going, there's a reason for that, and I would like to hear the Historic Preservation Commission explain to us why they need to bring this forward to us. What is the value to the whole city that justifies this? We have not heard that yet. We've only heard from the people who are opposing it. Frankly, from what I've heard so far, I'm inclined to agree with them, but I have not heard from the other side. I usually attend these Historic Preservation Commission meetings as kind of a fly on the wall, and in the time I've been a city commissioner, I've only heard them talk about these particular properties pretty much in passing, as if nothing is really going on. It's just news being shared amongst the other commission members. I had not realized that there was so much deliberate threat here involved in what they were doing during that time. I think what we could do at this point is the Historic District Commission has a function in the city, and to be respectful of the function that they have and the people who are serving on that Historic District Commission, it seems proper for us to listen to what their hopes are, intentions are, and have them justify to the general public what's at stake from their point of view, so we can hear both sides. If, on the other hand, having sensed the kind of opposition that seems to be forming about these things, I could informally ask the Historic District Commission, do you really want to go ahead with asking us to consider creating these districts, or do you just want to drop it? You know, that's an option that they have within their power, but I don't want to foreclose that option. I do not want to foreclose the option of them coming before us and making their case. If they want to do that, welcome to it. We'll all learn from it. If they feel that it's an effort not worth making, given the expression of opposition so far, well, perhaps we can foreshorten the whole thing. That's my position about it. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. No comments? A couple of other things to address tonight. For me, one, there were some words said about the Foundation for Excellence, that it's not doing anything. I think we have certainly demonstrated that we're supporting the north side tonight in regards to one item that I'm really excited for, and it addresses a number of the things that you folks have talked about. So, you know, there's so many dynamics to everything that this city does. So many dynamics. That's why we have a packet that's 150 pages that we try to make sure that everyone knows. If you want the packet, you can get on the email list and you can get it from the clerk. It goes out to everybody. It's a transparent process to get that. If you don't have it, almost everybody has one of these devices. You can get it on our website while you're sitting there and looking at it. And this is the way it's been for years, actually decades, that, well, not always on the web, though. I guess we haven't always had the web for decades. But there, it's available, it's transparent, it has to be, and, you know, typically almost every local unit of government conducts their business with a consent agenda, and there's so much that all of us don't know about why a public safety radio costs whatever it costs, and why you have to get new, because the technology changes. Why do you need new patrol cars? Because you get mileage on them. And some of these things are just routine, obvious things that, you know, we got to buy salt, we got to do this, we got to do that, that we have to have some way to manage that. That's the intent of the consent agenda. In our budget, we had a budget process. If I remember, how often do you hear me ask people to come to the budget? And we have very few people show up, and we just approved the budget about 2 meetings ago, and no one commented. Even one of the persons that was in this room tonight didn't comment on the budget and anything like that. So it's there. There's opportunities, and we have budget work sessions as well, if I remember right. So yeah, I want to hand everybody everything, but you also have to find those opportunities to learn what's going on. In regards to the historic district, you know, this came out of nowhere. Truly did. My preference is that the historic district members that sit around that table hold a meeting, a special meeting, not just an informational meeting and they have to hear from everyone, every individual. And my understanding in the meeting last Tuesday was our historic preservation staffer standing before everybody and the district members sitting in the audience and don't even know necessarily what their faces are. So I hope the district is listening wherever you might be, but my belief, and you may get a request, that you hold a special meeting, you hear from folks, you explain your thinking, because I do think there's always sides to this. I live in a historic district too, and I wouldn't ever give it up. I would not. However, I know that it's a struggle for individuals. I understand, and just for transparency, some of these structures, and I know everyone's saying we're going to take care of our buildings, some of these structures are slated to be coming down. That changes the nature of the community. It changes what is around the park. That's where this comes from. There's a rationale regarding that. The Mother House, beautiful building, I don't want to see it gone. I would love to see it stay. I would love to see it repurposed. I don't own it. I will be very sad when it disappears, because I think it's a distinct building within our community that has a lot of the history. You talked about the history, what's occurred in these structures. We've talked about Titus Bronson, what he did regarding the square. Well, that was done because he was saying it's special, and changes to the square should be done in a way that recognizes the specialness of that. So whether it's the structures, whether it's the activities, whether it's the individuals, you know, this is a unique, odd convergence of structures that sound like they're going to be removed from the community, which got some folks in a space. It's no different than us removing a fountain. It created this thing. So here we are. This is community. We agree, we disagree, we talk, we work through the dynamics, and some of this is the dynamics of the process. It is. This commission has not placed a moratorium. This commission has not designated anything to be anything other than what it is. But there are processes. The reason we have advisory boards, the reasons we have citizens serve, the reasons you participate in this community is because you want to impact, make it better, find path forwards for folks, all of those things, and sometimes that happens. You got to work through it. Got to work through it. You need to work through it in a swift way, in a deliberate way, and a transparent way. No, we're done.
I just want to let the commission know, City of Parchment approved.
Oh.
So we now have at least the mayor's signature
Can
on the agreement.
you just slip me a note or something?
I just got an email from the city manager.
That is awesome. We're proud that Parchment did that. We're happy to be partners with them. So you gave me another thing to talk about. You know, I spoke to the mayor when this crisis was going on, and, you know, they're thanking me and thanking me. I'm like, that's the guy. You know, I've said it already. That's the guy. How would we not respond when you have water and we have water? How do we not help you? You know, the sisters are, you know, that's what we're supposed to do this. You know, we're the Good Samaritan. No, I'm not going to go to the Bible because I'll screw it all. So I'm excited that they did what they did tonight. It looks like we have a path forward for Parchment and an opportunity, I think, to strengthen the relationship with our neighbor. We are adjourned.